front. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thurgood Marshall, Mr. Civil Rights. And in case you're wondering, I'm proud to be African American. I was born July 2nd, 1908 in Baltimore, Maryland, to Norma and William Marshall, and had an older brother named William Jr. At age 7, I got my first job at the grocery store. I took a red wagon, filled it with groceries, and brought them to the customers. That same age, I changed my name to Thurgood because my birth name Thoroughgood was too long and hard to spell. My life was pretty great as a kid, from waking up in the morning and going to school to debates at the dinner table at night. My life was pretty swell. In 1926, after I finished high school, I attended Lincoln University, a college in Pennsylvania. There, 3 years later, I met 17-year-old Vivian Burry, and I married her September 4th, 1929. A year later, I graduated at Lincoln and wanted to attend the University of Maryland for law school, but sadly I was turned down because I was African American. So instead, I attended Howard University. There I met my role model, Charles Houston. Charles Houston was the dean of the law school library. Many people thought he was strict, but I thought he was very inspirational. In 1933, I received my law degree from Howard, and I went to go work for the NAACP. The NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, worked for the fair treatment of African Americans. 2 years later, I won my first case to law a man named Donna Moran to go to an all-white school. I was pretty excited since my first case, but I won. But honestly, I knew I could win it. A year later, I got hired as a full-time lawyer for the NAACP, since my role model, Charles Houston, retired. In 1944, I won my second case, Smith versus All Right. It gave African Americans the right to vote in Texas. A lot of people knew me across the country because they heard of how I was a good lawyer. Many people wanted me to be their lawyer. 10 years later, I won my biggest case yet, from the Board of Education. It made segregation illegal in schools, and for African Americans like me to get a better education and meet new friends. Sadly, a year later, my wife died of cancer on her birthday in February. I was pretty upset for a couple of months, until in December that same year, I married Hawaiian Cecilia Slater. Me and Cecilia were pretty happy together, but nothing like my time with Vivian. But my spirits lifted when I was blessed with a new baby son that we named Thurgood Jr. a year later. I was pretty excited to be a parent, especially considering 2 years later, I had my second son, John William. In 1960, I was ready for a change, so I traveled to Kenya to help them write a new constitution. It was pretty cool traveling the world and trying new things. A year later, President Kennedy offered me a job as a federal judge. Of course I said yes. How could I say no to the president? I lasted a federal judge for 4 years until in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson named me the first African American Solicitor General in 1965. President Lyndon B. Johnson was very impressed with my work. So 2 years later, he bumped me up to a judge in the Supreme Court. It was pretty weird being the first African American to be on the highest court in the land. But at the same time, I was pretty shocked he wanted me for the job. He knew I could handle it. I was on the Supreme Court for 24 years until in 1991, I retired because of poor health. I had heart problems, couldn't see very well, and walked with a cane. Sadly, because of my heart problems, I died 2 years later. My legacy is known as a very important civil rights leader and the first African American to ever be on the Supreme Court. In my honor, a statue and school were built in Washington and Kansas in 1994. And that's my story.